Hello, this part of my story, by the way, my name is Daniel Posney, living here in Sedona. And I decided to kind of go into my story a little bit because I feel like that's a part of my work is sharing a little bit about myself that can relate to another person and they can kind of feel that they're not the only one feeling this. And so I've been talking about my story, what's happened in my life, not to kind of dive back into the negative story, but just to kind of connect with you and share some of that. So I think I left off in the Navy. And so I'll start off getting out of the Navy. We had a dungaree burning party and I started looking for a job. And I believe one of the first jobs that I got was with a chip manufacturing company in Santa Barbara. So I got married to a woman that I met while playing quarters. So, the quarters game, you have some beer and you try and bounce the quarter into the thing. And we met. I thought she was cute. She was great, really fun. And of course, it led into a deeper relationship. And when I was in the Navy, I would get off the ship. I had a cool little Porsche car that I drove around. I drive that car to my girlfriend's house and soon to be my fiance, and her mom and everybody really partied a lot. So we partied, and it just seemed like a pretty cool setup to stay in her mom's house and party and drink beer and play darts and all that. So that worked for a while for a young guy. And then, of course, the next thing was getting married. And so we decided to get married. And I was on this frigate ship, which is a ship that's kind of a smaller ship, about a couple hundred guys. And our job was to search for Russian submarines. And we had a sister ship. So when you have a sister ship, it's the same kind of ship, but different number. And I think ours was 38. And this was when the USS Stark got hit by a missile in the Persian Gulf. And right after that time, my wife and I, or my fiance and I, decided to get married, and we set a date. And I went back to the ship while I was on my, I was on leave or something. And my friend came to the car and he said, we're going on emergency deployment. And really freaked me out because, you're kind of hoping that this was the last 6 months of my Navy time, that I would get married, get a job, kind of use this whole time that I've been in the Navy to my benefit. And it was good. I had a plan. But when they said emergency deployment, that threw all the whole plan out the door. There's no being on the mainland, being in the United States, making the calls, sending out the letters, all that stuff. God, it wasn't even, I don't think computers were really, personal computers weren't really there then. So it was just mailing out letters and phone calls I couldn't do from the ship. So I just had to suck it up and go out there for 6 months. And we went to the Philippines, went to Cochin, India. That was about it. And besides the Persian Gulf, and we spent a lot of time out there. I think I told you a story about that with my twin brother. But when I got back, I got this job as a robotics technician in Santa Barbara. And that was pretty cool. I started out as a technician 1 or something, ended up being a technician 3 after a few years, and really felt like I really liked that. I was wearing a bunny suit because it was a clean room. So it's like a full-on white suit, and you go in and you fix the equipment wearing this bunny suit. So I did that and got into triathlons. And let's see, I think we had our oldest daughter by that time. Yeah, we had our oldest daughter by that time. And then we were working on having our second daughter. But it was taken a long time because there was complications with the pregnancy. And I think my wife at the time had something like 4 or 5 miscarriages. And it was super hard on her to keep on going with, the intention to have a baby and, what am I doing wrong and all that kind of stuff. But she wasn't doing anything wrong. It was just, from what I see now about our relationship wasn't really healthy at that time. And I think we'd both admit that we were hoping that another child would try and fix our relationship, but we didn't search out any help or any counseling or anything until the very end. So let's see. So we were married for 14 years and we had two beautiful daughters, Brianna and Kaylee, and which are, I see them as completely opposite people, which is very awesome. Looks and personality and all that. Let's see. We were divorced and I went through what people call a dark night of the soul, and quit my job. I thought the best way to do it was to go on my own and flip homes. And I'm kind of skipping over things right now. I'm kind of remembering things, so bear with me. Got divorced, thought about suicide. I thought it would be better for everyone else, my kids included, because no one seemed to like me, and I was just kind of hating myself, and I felt that everyone else hated me. And I thought that the best thing for me to do, hopefully someone would get some money through life insurance somehow. And so I started to think about how I could do this and make sure that everybody got the money that, I wanted them to get. It wasn't much, but there was a life insurance. And I thought, how am I going to do this? And I just didn't see anything forward from where I was sitting, how it could be different than what it's always been. And I know this part can really hits with a lot of people right now watching this. You think that how your life has been and what you're seeing in the future is how it's going to be. But it's only because you keep on doing what you've been doing. And it's like you're looking, I was looking through down this street of this, like if you can imagine a city street, I'm looking down the street and that's all I see, the same buildings, the same street. And I know these streets, but where I was going was way over here to the left, way over here around the corner. But back then I couldn't see that. I couldn't see that Daniel, who was always known as like an inventor, technician, programmer, technical kind of guy, would be doing this, would be doing shamanic healing and amazing life coaching. I didn't see it from there. But of course, there's a journey in between all this. So I quit my job, started to find little odd jobs. I started 3 different businesses. I got my black belt. I started teaching. I was working on my 2nd degree black belt, and then decided to not do any more martial arts learning. And I started to teach kids martial arts. This all ties into when I lived on the self-realization fellowship property called Sunburst, which is north of Santa Barbara. Let's see. Kids didn't want to be part of my life, and I can't blame them because I was a bit of an asshole. And I didn't really have anything to give them. I remember sitting with my kids in the car. I think I was at the Santa Barbara Mission, and they were in the car, and I think we were getting ready to go to dinner, which is what we did. I always took them to a nice dinner because I was making good money. And I remember telling them, I have nothing for you. I have nothing to give you. And I just broke down. And I remember the look on their faces looking at me like, wow, the guy who's supposed to have it together, he's losing it. And I was. And so divorce, kids didn't want to be part of my life anymore. They kind of slowly but surely filtered out of my life, and they had their own decisions to make. Let's see, what else happened at that time? Well, I just kind of lost everything. And that's kind of what the dark night of the soul is. But I started to build myself back up again, and just kind of one foot in front of the other. And I built a computer repair business that started getting pretty successful, but I didn't like it. I just gave me so much stress to be involved in someone's such important piece of equipment for them. And I got paid good money, but I didn't like it. And then I was teaching martial arts, which I really loved, but didn't pay very much. And then I was also doing the website programming for people. So I had a few clients that I was working on. Had a great Jewish foundation called Moishe House, which we were partners for about 6 years or something. We were awesome partners. And then even after a while, that started to fade out because I started to lose my passion about that. There was something shifting in me. The more that I started to discover of myself and let go of old thoughts and programs, I started to get more clearer about what really felt good to me. Like when you're so clouded with your old patterns and your old beliefs and your own mind programs, it clouds what you feel is good for you. And that's why I know when I work with people, they say, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do about this job or this relationship. I don't know what my purpose is. You're not supposed to. If you knew what your purpose was and where you're supposed to be headed in the position that you're in right now, that'd be kind of messed up. It means that your mind knows what's best for you, and that it's okay to be in your clouded thoughts of insecurities and limited beliefs, that's a safe place to go forward in, but it's not. So there needs to be some kind of a clarity, and that's what was happening to me. So let me check my notes here. Making my money. Oh, and as I had that, the other thing that I had lost was my soul. I forgot about that. When you make really good money, a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times you get so involved in the work and like what they call golden handcuffs. And I was making pretty close to six figures and seemed to have a pretty good life. I started doing triathlons, and that was a good distraction for me. Of course, I did the martial arts. That was a great distraction. I was surfing whenever there was surf in Santa Barbara. If you live in Santa Barbara, you know what I mean. If I could just get 1 inch, if I could just get 2 inches of surf, I could do something with a longboard. And then I was playing beach volleyball, which volleyball for me since high school was always a passion and maybe even an addiction at times. But I would have friends that we played volleyball with, and a great group of people that I did that with. And all that stuff was just, look at it now. And, back then I wouldn't admit to this, but now I look at it, it was just keeping me together and give me something to look forward to the weekend, and looking forward. And then of course, drinking, looking forward to getting a martini at this Italian restaurant that I used to hang out at the bar at. And I felt the bartender was my best friend and he knew me. And then one day I got word that he had died, and apparently he had hung himself. And that really kind of woke me up. Like, here's a guy that I'm seeking counseling from, or getting a companionship from. And, he's given me extra drinks, and I feel he's a really good friend for doing that for me. And then he died. And it really kind of struck me that the path that I'm on is not a path of health and wellness. And I need to watch myself here. And it was really close that I could have gone down several times in my life. I could have gone down this other road. I could have gone through addiction. I don't know why I didn't, but I could have gone into addiction to drugs or to alcohol, but I just didn't. It's not that I didn't do enough of it. It just wasn't in my system, I guess. Didn't have the DNA, the genes, the environment, and all the things that culminate into that. I just didn't. But not to say I wasn't a prime candidate for it. So let's see. Let me check my notes here, because I know I'm kind of going back and forth. I went through a divorce, and that was not fun. It's an interesting thing when you talk about that you're not happy in your marriage with your wife or spouse or with your friends, and people go, "What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about." Well, if we were all more aware and more conscious in our thoughts and feelings and relationship, and our awareness about things, we would see things. Now I can see things very clearly. Back then I didn't see it, but I do remember not feeling totally 100%. And it wasn't just cold feet. It was just not really feeling like this person and I were going to expand together. It was going to be good if we both stayed in the same place. But I felt like there was some expansion going on in me that was prepping, and didn't feel like this was the one for that. But we were together for 14 years. So you can imagine the ups and downs and the frustrations and the arguments that were never based out of what was happening then. It was based out of my own, out of integrity with myself and not listening to myself. So we got a divorce, and I continued to try and find myself, living in this community, being in different relationships, which every single one, I want to say to anyone on this video that's somehow connected to me through relationship, that you were perfect. You were wonderful. You did what you could do with me. And it was not really in the most open, loving state of loving myself. And you just reflected back to me. And I'm sorry about that. And I deeply apologize for any pain or suffering that I caused you. And here I am. So all the relationships that I had, just very wonderful women, and just had really fun time. And then I needed to start I felt the desire, the urge, the pull to start working on myself. And so I attracted this woman in my life that became my teacher for about 4 years. And of course, we argued a lot, and I was frustrated and pissed off at her a lot. But I learned so much from her. And a lot of the stuff that I learned from her benefits me to this day in my own life and in the sessions that I do now. It makes me the great life coach healer that I am today, partly because of that relationship and every relationship before that. So let's see. Oh, then I got into a relationship with someone that looked really good on paper. She was beautiful. Oh my gosh, she had long legs and beautiful body, beautiful breasts, red hair, tall, martial arts, going for her black belt, very intelligent, archaeology, anthropology, I believe, comes from a good family and wealthy, like multimillionaire wealthy, and super like witty and everything. She was wonderful. And yet there was something that didn't feel in integrity, and that we had some problems in the bedroom. We had some problems in our intimacy, and it started to kind of tweak me a little bit. I know it all played into the insecurity. Like, let me explain it this way. Like, if you're in a cave of insecurity, all you're going to see is insecurity. So because I was in the field of insecurity, I was experiencing my insecurities through the reflections and the events and the experiences that I had with her. And they were with anyone, they would be weird. And I'm not going to go into it, but there was just weird stuff that was happening. But it played into me being insecure. So anyone else that would have the same experience, of course, yeah, they would say that's really weird. But for me, it's something different because I created that. I attracted that. I got so affected by that I created kind of more of that. And I remember my mind just going crazy with this thoughts about all these things that were happening. It was like a nightmare. It's not a nightmare. That's not the right word. A dream. It was a weird dream that was happening. And I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. And we went to therapy and we talked to the therapist about it. And I wanted her to acknowledge and validate that what I was seeing and hearing was real. And she denied it. And I just completely, what the hell is happening? Anyway, we were together for 11 months. And you would think, and I thought to myself, Daniel, you idiot, why don't you just buck up and shut your mouth, enjoy the 1957 Chevy classic pickup truck and the 2 motorcycles and the Audi and the 5 homes in Santa Barbara. Yeah, I'm serious. All that stuff was happening. The trip to Tahiti and Hawaii, and, copious amounts of cocktails and drinks, and all that stuff sounds so good. And with a beautiful woman who's got it all. And yet there was some stuff from her past that caused my insecurities. And it didn't seem like it was being fixed. And so I had to make a decision. And it came to the point where I said, I either need to work on this relationship or continue working and distracting myself. And I told her about this, and she was not in agreement with this. And so we just had a big blow up, and that was the end. 11 months in the relationship, in the marriage, and it was over. Never to speak to each other again, completely gone. So that was a big turning point in my life, because it was after that time that I met this other woman that became more of a teacher to me and started to pull me out of this old paradigm of my life. So again, I bless this other woman, the wealthy woman, and all that, because it all led me to this place. So, wow, what a story. It sounds like a really good movie. So what was happening with this other woman is in my own life and my own discoveries is I started to do what they call wake up. I don't mean woke. This is not woke. I don't know why we're using this term woke because it doesn't fit. But I started to wake up consciously, meaning I started to become more conscious of myself and my own thoughts and beliefs. And I started to, instead of being wrapped up, my I am presence and my egoic mind wrapped up into this thing I call me, I started to pull that apart and separate that and start to look at myself and look, not like just look at yourself, Daniel. It's not like that. It's more like with wonder, with intrigue, with noticing, with observing and witnessing. It's just looking at yourself going, that was an unusual response, or where did that come from, kind of thing. So it's not a hating of the egoic mind by any means. It's just really looking at it and say, wow, it's really kind of taken over and I've called it me. So I started to look at that. And what happened was perfection happened. We couldn't pay the rent, this other woman and we needed to make a decision if we were going to keep on pushing and working our butts off and trying to make rent, or go with the flow and go live in this spiritual community that we were friends with and we were hanging out with. And we pushed it with them and we kind of bypassed their long process of getting in. And we got in a shorter time. What a great family there was there. So we ended up living in one of these, it was like an extended tiny home. And she and I lived together, and when you live on 4,000 acres, 13 miles from town in a little cabin, you're going to find yourself. You know, you're going to discover some things about yourself, and you're going to have great opportunities, especially if you're in relationship. You know, it's one thing to be in a cave and receive epiphany and ideas and stillness, but when you're in relationship, that's the thing that you really get down to some shit and you really kind of clear some stuff out, or at least bring it up. So that's what we were doing. And we had a great time doing it too. And we had great fun in relationship and great creation. And, went to kirtans together. And it was, it was really a great relationship, also full of work and processing and learning and all that. So, which is a perfect timing. So from that relationship and that time in that, that property, that I guess you call it an ashram, I really started to find myself, and I had a couple big epiphanies, big awakenings. And one of my first awakenings was in the yoga class. And I was in Eddie's class at Yoga Soup in Santa Barbara. And I got to Shavasana where I was lying down, and, everything was in this, everything just kind of, this is perfect. This is a perfect song. This is a perfect pose. And I was just in such alignment with what was going on there. By the time I got into corpse pose, where you're laying down, my whole body started to activate. It was like every cell in my body turned on, and I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, but this flood of unconditional love just flowed over my body, and I just started crying. And that was the first kind of spiritual experience that I had, and it really kind of woke me up to, there is so much more, Daniel. There's so much more. And I started having dreams and epiphanies and lucid dreams and all these things that just started, it's like my life and my body and my state started to expand and expand. It was kind of like everything was kind of suppressed down. And then I was released from my own prison, and it started to expand into this, just a new version of me. And of course, I went through the whole spiritual ego about that too. Look at me, I'm enlightened, look how peaceful I am and all that. Wow, this has gone fast. But I got through that too. And it was just a stage. It was like a happy, prideful stage. Yes, I've made it. Look, yes. But that's totally fine if you've gone through that, or if you're going through that, or even if you're going to go to that, honor it. Because I realized that it was a place that I wanted to say, okay, I've gotten somewhere. And it really helped me to say, I did this, I pushed through, I'm in a different place now. So if it looks like spiritual ego or pride or something, cool. Just let it happen. just know that that's a stage, and you'll get through that stage too. And there's no, I don't know if there's any rushing it or faking it to get out of that stage. It just comes from finding humbleness and finding, it's like, of course, every time that I needed to find humbleness, something would be presented to me that would just pop me in the face and get me to wake up a little bit more. So I guess I'll just stop here and just say that all led me to going to Sedona. I've been working with a medicine woman in California. She got a job as a psychic in Sedona. And I went out with my friend Christina to visit her, and I fell in love with Sedona. And I had just finished this 2,000-mile bicycle ride, and I had very little that was holding me. My kids didn't want to be part of my life. Of course, my ex-wife didn't want to talk to me. Relationships were kind of gone and not communicating, except for one or two, and you know who you are. And but I start to look at the idea of going to Sedona. And at the time I was doing programming work, and I thought I could do that in Sedona. And I thought, well, I'm going to leave this whole idea of being a California boy and needing to be close to the ocean. And I thought, well, I could go there and I could always come back. So I went there on a train with my bicycle in a box. And I got to Flagstaff, which is about 40-minute drive from Sedona. I got off the train, pulled my bike out of the box, put it together, put my trailer together, hooked everything up. It was about 5:30 in the morning, and rode my bicycle from Flagstaff down through Oak Creek Canyon into Sedona, and cried on the way down. And I'll leave you with that. That was my entry into Sedona. I hope you enjoyed the story. Sorry it wasn't so perfectly aligned, but that's the way it goes. I love you. Thank you. Bless you. Have a wonderful day.